That's Cleveland playoff baseball. And that was the quintessential win for this team, where you've got the best pitcher in baseball on the mound, who, by the way, I don't think is 100% healthy. He walked a lot of guys last night before you got to him. And you just dinked and dunked, and finally the dam broke through, and you could just see it in Detroit. You could see they were defeated last night before. I mean, God help them in the ninth inning. When Cade Smith was there in the ninth inning, they didn't stand a chance. That he could have thrown 12 eephus pitches. He could have said, I'm going to now throw 12 straight fastballs right down the middle. They would not have been able to hit it. They were defeated last night in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah, it just feels like the Guardians, during this run and during last night's game, they put so much pressure on the Tigers that they have forced them to go outside themselves. They have lost themselves.
Yeah.
They're not dealing with the pressure very well. I think it's in the back of their mind that they're part of this huge historic collapse. And you always say, like, how are you when things are uncomfortable? Can you deal with being uncomfortable? Mm-hmm. Can you deal with adversity? The Tigers feel like, to me, these great front runners, but when things start to go wrong, they just can't handle it. And for Skubal, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball,
will
win another Cy Young.
$300 million man this offseason.
Oh my gosh. For him to have a moment where he just went outside himself because he was feeling so much pressure and he started to do not Skubal things, that's when it really felt like, to me, all right, the Guardians got this. Like, there's no way that the Tigers can come back from this tonight, and there's no way that they can come from... They're done. They're cooked. Yeah. It's over.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And to me, that's the power of an ace. The ace tells you everything about how your team is doing. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we can consider this with, like, the best hitter on the team, or a guy like Ohtani, or a guy like Mookie Betts as well, or Aaron Judge, something like that. When they get outside of themselves, that's who that team looks to steady the ship. Mm-hmm. And the fact that 2 times in 5 days, Skubal could not steady the ship. I don't know this guy could get out of this division fast enough for himself. Like, that was, and again, like, I'm going to say it again, he's not healthy. So we have to add in the fact that he doesn't look healthy, and I think that's also what's part in his head. But when your ace hikes the baseball to first base, which is, I mean, Skubal's got some of that Kluber to him. Mm-hmm. He's got that I am a robot on the mound. And it was before David Fry got plunked in the face with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. We continue to send good vibes and prayers to him and his family. That was so scary. But even in that, you saw an incredibly human response to what had happened from Skubal. And it was just, this is the wheels coming off. And when your best player, your kind of North Star, does that, I don't know how you get back on the other side of things. A.J. Hinch is a great manager. I don't know how you steady the ship in this series. Yeah. You got Boston after this. I don't know how you steady the ship on that. And by the way, I'm the guy that thought going into last night that one of the three the number one most likely of the 3 outcomes for the Tigers, same with the Guardians, although I felt differently about the Guardians, was that they were more likely to miss the playoffs than win the Central or win a playoff spot. I came into that game feeling that way, and it felt like last night rubber stamped that.
Because that's the thing. If you're the Tigers right now and you're having an honest moment, you say to yourselves, okay, where do we go now?
Yeah.
We're turning to Jack Flaherty and his 5 ERA or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Somebody who has not been reliable when we've needed to keep it together. The thing that they always had for all of the things that were going bad for the Tigers, and some of their hitters were in slumps at the wrong time, and they had injuries to their starting rotation and injuries to their bullpen. Whether you were a Detroit fan or you were in that clubhouse, you could always sit there and say, well, we've got Skubal.
Yeah.
Skubal can pitch twice in 1 week if he has to, and you can bank those 2 wins. When the rival team that you're trying to hold off finds a way to get to that guy, it's just a blow to your psyche.
Yep.
And you sit there and you say, uh-oh, what's going to change? What's going to save us now? Where do we turn? Do we turn to Riley Green? who can barely hit against Guardians pitching.
Who, by the way, got froze by a question last night.
Yeah.
He was asked about
how many times they struck out against Guardians pitching.
Who's that?
What? 19? 19? Are you serious? Do we turn to the bullpen game?
Yep.
It's just, they're not the same team when Skubal is not invincible.
Yep. And this is where it's now important for the Guardians. Now you don't let up. That was a great win last night. But the only way the Tigers can take this division back is if you let up. And that's now what becomes, I think, the most interesting part of this. You've had the impossible dream. You've had you're never going to erase that 15.5 game deficit, or I think it was September 1st, there were 12, 11.5, somewhere in there. You're never going to do that. Well, now you've done it. Now you got to keep that momentum going for the next 5 games and certainly into the playoffs. 2-1-6.
But here's the thing, Nick. If we were having this conversation about the Guardians in July, in August, that would be a legitimate worry, right? I think a lot of people around town would legitimately be worried about that. But based on what we've seen basically since the All-Star break and certainly during this recent run, I'm not worried about them letting up. I'm not worried about them laying an egg. Not at this time. The way that this team is playing, the way that this team is believing, I believe along with them. They've given me a reason to back them and believe in them. That sort of thing that you were talking about right there, it's not going to happen. That they're almost not capable of it.
You asked a question in the pre-show that I think is, I think there's so many of them to choose from, but I do think it's fair to ask, where does this rank? What the Guardians are doing right now and the Cleveland sports story, the litany of all the great stories. The first one I thought of was the 2023 Browns, where once they got through DTR, I thought, well, it'd be nice for the Texans to have another top 15 pick. Mm-hmm. And then Flacco comes on the scene, goes 4-1, and we know how the postseason went. But for the regular side of things, like getting 11 wins with that team, with Joe Flacco, who was the right guy at the right moment, that was the first thing I thought of, just as like very comparable kind of situations.
Yeah, I think that one, there was the Browns season of dreams where Derek Anderson came out of nowhere, Braylon Edwards, Kellen Winslow, all came together at the right time. Baker leading them. Can we talk about Baker? Is that okay?
Well, there's going to be at least somebody shouting at you, why are you talking about Baker?
All right.
It might just be somebody from the morning show.
Okay. So Baker leading them to the playoffs, that comes to mind as well. You know, when you think back to recent history in Cleveland sports, obviously, it's going to be really, really difficult for anything that happens either to the Guardians or the Browns to top the Cavs winning a championship and all of the stories that are attached to that. You've got the LeBron angle with that, right? You've got breaking the sports drought. You've got coming back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals to that historic Golden State Warriors team. So much of what makes a great story is the other stories involved with that and the other layers to it. And it's just going to be really difficult because there were so many attached to that Cavs championship. But I do think people have to recognize just how special it is what the Guardians are doing and how much we're going to be talking about this for years to come and maybe decades to come.
So, like, I put, obviously, Cavs title, that whole 4-year sequence. That's just on a different level.
Yes.
And then right below that is the 2020 playoff win with Baker, because it was a great regular season, and then beating Pittsburgh in the first round. You couldn't, and I think sometimes it's easy to forget how close you were to beating Kansas City and how close that felt. And then I would also put the Guardians World Series runs right under there.
Yeah, because
those are postseason successes.
And the other thing is you still remember it didn't lead to a win.
Yep.
It didn't lead to a World Series, but you still remember Rajai Davis's home run.
Yep.
And you remember all the reaction and what you were doing at that time and how that made you feel. That still goes down in Guardians lore, even though it didn't lead to a championship. So even if the Guardians, don't finish this off and go on to win the World Series, it doesn't diminish what they've done here during this run.
Well, and I think, so what I love about where they are, right? Biggest comeback in the history. Even saying it is like, you feel like an idiot saying it because it's so unbelievable that you've done it. You can only build on it from here. Like, there's nothing that can happen in the playoffs that tarnishes this. If you go one and done in the playoffs, if you get bounced down the wild card round, we'll say, well, yeah, look what you had to do to get back in this
out
thing.
Of gas.
But even if you make it to the divisional round then, and then they went and won that first round series, likely against Detroit. To me, like, that's when it joins those first three stories we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's that first run with the Cavs when they were in the play-in before they traded for Donovan.
Okay.
Now it's the 04 team. They ended up at 80 and 82. But I think people forget that summer. It was that first run with Hafner. I don't know if Grady was up yet. There was Hafner and CC, and you started to see the makings of what would become the 07 team. And in August, they were in a pennant fight with the Twins. Now, it ended up falling apart. They didn't end up making the playoffs that year, and they ended up a 500 team.
Mm-hmm.
But up until it was the third week of August, it was you and the Twins, and there were a couple series with Minnesota here at the park that were electric. That to me is like where we are, of just a great regular season story that no one saw coming. I mean, remember, we're coming off 02, coming off 03. You were not expecting to compete that year. The next year, by the way, you won 93 games when everybody kind of expected it.
Right.
But this was it was a moment in time. I think it was like a 2-month stretch with that 04 team. And that was the first moment where you saw, we're not going to suck forever. And I do think, I think this one is so much more unique than that, though, because I think you're going to finish the story, whereas that team couldn't.
Yeah.
And with this, you were talking about all the little stories in it.
Oh, my gosh.
To be able to survive, it's not enough that you lost Class A.
Right.
You were going to trade Class A. It wasn't fated you were going to trade Quan. It wasn't fated you were going to trade anybody else. It was going to happen for Class A. So not only organizationally did you not have, well, sure, we lost him and then Cade Smith came in. No. You also lost out on a jackpot payday that was going to help you replenish for that next run. And by the way,
or help you in this run.
Exactly. Some of those guys could be on this roster right now. And that was after you lost Luis Ortiz, who, when he got suspended, was your best starting pitcher. And so, it's so interesting because I really do think you could just have a 30 for 30 on this season for the Guardians. And I wouldn't want to watch it this offseason. But eventually, the story of this team and what they've overcome, the 10-plus game losing streak, the this, that, the other, the obscene peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. We said this yesterday. I don't ever remember. This is hard to do in baseball because there are so many different ways seasons can go. I don't ever remember a season that followed this script and ended in a way that you could say was really compelling in the stretch run. And by the way, it also is going to end right here in Cleveland for the final 6 games of the season.
The crazy thing about it, Nick, is that if a lot of these things didn't happen before, in the lead up to this, it just doesn't feel as special. It doesn't feel like there's as much magnitude attached to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were looked at as underdogs, and they were looked at, in some degree, as underachievers for half of the season. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then overcoming the Tigers' brilliant start in the first half of the season, overcoming the losses that they had. And it just speaks to Stephen Vogt and his ability as a manager to keep it all together. It speaks to the leadership in that clubhouse from the player side of things. And it also speaks to the depth of this organization, that they can have such significant losses and they can still have other guys that are ready to step up and fill bigger roles.
There is no part of this team, defense, offense. I'll even say Hosey, who had 1 or 2 stretches where it wasn't very good. The starting rotation, the bullpen. There's no part of this team that for more than half of this season played like elite baseball. Mm-hmm. The rotation has had probably the last 20 games, right? And honestly, in the second half, they've been really, really good. It's not a full 80 games because there were some stretches in there where you couldn't buy a good start from Sassoni or Gavin Williams. Same thing with the bullpen. Like I think the bullpen might be the best thing this season that you've had, and I think they've been the best version of themselves for probably about 45% of the season. The defense was a F- for the first half of the season. The offense has pretty much just been an F-. Outside of like 1 month, I think it was like June or something like that. I can't remember when it happened. No, it was July.
I mean, how many conversations have there been on this station about, is anybody going to help Jose Ramirez on the offense?
Yep.
What are they going to do in right field? What are they going to do in center field? Can they find a power bat at one of the corner outfield spots? I mean, think about all those conversations. And they were real conversations, and they were worthy conversations, too, because that was something that the Guardians were trying to figure out. That was something that they were trying to navigate. And as you said, for them to piece it together and have some of these guys step forward, and that's one of the things that I like about this run recently, including last night's win against Detroit. It didn't have to all be Jose.
Yeah. Yep.
There were different guys that stepped up in different moments. Quan with the bunt to put the pressure on the Tigers to begin with, right? Then you had Schneemann come up in a big spot against, the Tigers' biggest trade acquisition in Finnegan. Mm-hmm. Like, that was big time. It wasn't Jose Ramirez carried their offense.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, other guys stepped up throughout the course of that win against the Tigers, and that to me was so impressive.
216-474-0092. Where does what the Guardians are doing right now, rank in the pantheon of Cleveland sports stories? Kevin in Cleveland, welcome to the show, buddy. What you got for us?
Gentlemen, how we doing? I wanted to bring up two things. One, there's no way that I was alone in thinking that the season was over when Clase got in trouble for gambling, right?
No. There was a fair amount of people that gave up at that exact moment.
And now here we are thinking we do have a chance to go ahead and, write our ticket to postseason and possibly, this is the best time to get hot, So I don't want to say the big W words, but it might happen. Who knows? But
go ahead.
I wanted to bring up, obviously the comeback that we're having right now is awesome, but can we talk about the choke job that the Tigers are doing as well?
Yeah, I don't think any historical comeback can be discussed. Like, I don't think you can tell the story of that without talking about the other side.
Yeah.
Right? If you talk about the Cavs rallying from 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors to win the championship, yes, the Cavs played a huge role in that, but Golden State's unraveling also played a role in that. And it's the same thing when it comes to the Tigers.
I'd also say this. What's sweet about this is your success isn't solely because they collapsed.
No.
They didn't come down to meet you. You came up to meet them as they were free-falling, because even when you won last night, even if that wasn't for the division, you would have just gained another spot in the wild card. I think that's where I think sometimes we're like, okay, did we take it or did they just give it to us? No. This is the rare case where the Guardians have come up and they are 13 games above 500 now, 14 games above 500, while the Tigers have free fallen.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the sweet spot.
Yeah.
You get, we've succeeded and you've also failed, and you happen to be our biggest rival.
Yeah, it's not like they won the division at 80 and 82 if they go on to win the division.
Yeah, what we call that the NFC South championship of like, you're 8-9. By all means, you do get a first round bye. JK, LOL.
Somebody has to make it.
Listen, guys, one of you just put it together for 5 minutes because we need a playoff team to represent you. That's not what this is.